Hello, lieutenants, economists, and children. And people are already, yeah, you should have called us children. Oh, we're just like... There's some people like that. So let me explain. It's from Fallout 3. It's Three Dog. Ow! Hello, children. So it's not a slight or a slander. It's just a reference primarily to the younger 20-somethings who play video games. To say, yeah, I actually am kind of one of you. And I actually didn't play Fallout 3 to be like them. I played Fallout 3 because somebody recommended it, and I kind of liked it. It was alright. It wasn't... They fucking ammo starve you in that game. And I know a lot of you purists say, oh, that's how it would be in post-apocalyptic. I don't play video games for realism. I play them for surrealism, unrealism, you know? How else do you explain you survived the storming of Normandy Beach in the original Medal of Honor? Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about reparations. I'm very tired because I just worked a long shift. Which is what everyone does, is they talk about reparations after working a long shift. But more importantly, this is going to be an exercise in intellectual honesty on the part of both black people and white people, invariably of the leftist stripe, but for those of you who somehow think that reparations are owed to slaves, or more appropriately, descendants of slaves. And here's the fact, and you know what? This, as said, I'm not making an argument. I'm stating facts here. This is all logic. This is all factual. This is a test to see whether you are capable of what is required for success, which may be part of success. It's just, sex is, I mean, for guys anyway, I'm so better when I'm sleep deprived. Success is intellectual honesty, because that is what adults do. Say, what is realistic? What is honest? What is intellectually honest, right? Here's the thing. The argument for reparations, and there are several, but the primary one is that the infrastructure of this country, and other countries, has been built at some point in time. Some economic production has gone into the infrastructure, built up the capital, resulted in the profits that were then reinvested in future companies, yada, 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 yada. And therefore, even though the slaves who slaved away to create that economic production are long gone and dead, that capital, we could say their economic legacy, which would be appropriate, and accurate too, would entitle future descendant non-slaves of their progeny to some kind of economic recompense. And you would be right. I'm with you on that, because that is intellectually honest. There's a problem. What happened in 1865? And this is the thing. And I don't mean it, I'm not saying this as a cop-out. I'm not saying this as aha, look at us, because this didn't happen in other countries that had slavery. But this did happen here in the United States. Well, the North went down to the South and invariably beat the fucking shit out of it. The North won. And not only did we win, we went down there and decimated. And I think was it Sherman's March to the Atlantic or Sherman's March to Atlanta? I think that, now I'm not a history buff, but I think the war at Appomattox had been signed, and they still went down there and laid waste to Atlanta. All right, the South was completely destroyed, and the South, or its economy, was built off slaves. So you had a non-slave army based on a non-slave economy come in and wipe out the slave-based economy, or partially slave-based economy, because it wasn't just slaves, you know. It was like, hey, we got slaves, what do you do? They do nothing, they just slave. At what? They produce nothing. I don't know. Just slaves walking around, we got slaves. It's just, there were other industries, obviously, in the South, but slavery was very obviously a plurality part of it. Regardless, the North comes in and just lays waste to the South. We destroyed the Southern economy. So any kind of capital investment, any kind of economic, whatever term I came up, God, I guess that was a good term too. Economic legacy? Was that it? Whatever, you know what I was talking about before. Anyway, that's all wiped out because it's been destroyed with bombshells and fires and torches and everything else. Then there was the Reconstruction period. And I do remember this because I'm like, why am I reading? I mean, I think I was like maybe 5th grade or something. Like, what the fuck's the Reconstruction? I mean, you couldn't care less. But anyway, there was a Reconstruction period where actually some resources from the North came in to rebuild the South. So the point of that being is that whatever economic argument for reparations, like based on this country's economy was founded on, or at least partially on the backs of slaves, and therefore there's the good economic argument that there is reparations due to modern day descendants of slaves. Again, I'm not disagreeing with that. The only problem is that economy was destroyed 160 years ago, whatever the math is, right? So, and not to mention, on the backs of 300,000 dead Union soldiers, whatever. Again, I'm not really great at history. It was the bloodiest. Here's the thing: they say the Civil War is the bloodiest war we've ever had, and that's true based on the percentage of the population that died. I think World War I was the worst. Again, I'm gonna have the history buffs fucking, but you get my point, right? So that economic argument, the primary economic argument for reparations, I'm sorry, there is no economic argument because there's no economy that exists anymore. It was destroyed 160 years ago. Right? So you got that. Now here's the other moral argument. And again, this is going to be another test of intellectual honesty. But, okay, take me for example, okay? I never owned slaves, and every black person alive today has never been a slave. I don't think there's any, No, I don't think so. Yeah, there's not one slave alive today. I don't think that's possible. Now, with reparations, though, what you're saying is, here's a guy who's never owned a slave, and we're going to take money from him. We're going to steal money. We're going to take part of his finite life, because I don't get money. I don't just like, oh, I'm a white man. Let me fart some out of my ass. Oh, white man fart money. Hey, there we go. Oh, okay, black guy, here you go. No, I got to go expend part of my finite life, the only resource I got, working for some cocksucking bank motherfucking douche. Never mind, don't get me started about the banking industry. I got to go work for somebody. I got to give up part of my life, I exchange it, they give me money so I can buy food, clothing, shelter, and all that other stuff. Now, I gotta give that to somebody who's never been a slave. Really? No offense, guys. Fuck that. Fuck you and fuck that. Because it's not just. It's not right. Right? And on top of it, you were a slave. Matter of fact, well, here's the other thing. You could say, well, your ancestors might have been... No, you can't even say the ancestors might have been slaves, because the majority of the population... And then there's interbreeding, but... The majority of migration, and therefore the descendants of the U.S. population, happen after the Civil War, happen after slavery. Like, again, going back to the history that I think you and I are all a little bit fuzzy on, because our history teacher was awfully boring. Most of it came in the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, Ellis Island, all that other bullshit. These people came from Europe. They had nothing to do with the Civil War. They didn't own slaves. Matter of fact, I think if I go back far enough, my ancestors probably, well, Irish, if you need to know, we were probably somewhere back there. There's a drunkard Clary eating his potatoes, chasing after O'Malley's daughter, and the British probably had one of my great grandparents a slave. And I'm not like, British owes me reparations. What I'm saying is, all these people came over. They had nothing to do with it. Even their ancestors, not only do their modern day ancestors have no responsibility for slavery, never owned slaves, even their ancestors didn't. There's no disproportionate advantage to the majority of people in America today that benefited off of slavery. So on top of the fact that we wiped out, the North many years ago wiped out the South, the genealogical argument, the breeding argument, the fact that the majority of immigrants and therefore the majority of modern-day population of the United States never had slaves, never had anything to do with slavery, renders the whole freaking thing moot. Because here's the problem, people. You're asking people who had nothing to do with it, no blood on their hands, genuinely innocent people, to forfeit a part of, to become slaves themselves. And in some small part, or maybe not necessarily a small part, I calculated 14 years you're working for somebody else based on current wealth transfers, but neither here nor there. You're asking for someone who has no blood on their hands to also enslave themselves literally to you in some kind of peace when you've never suffered the transgressions your great ancestors did. So, it's logic. It's fact. And absolutely, if you're intellectually honest, I would love to engage in conversation. I would love to someone come up with criticisms of the arguments I've proposed so far, or presented so far. I didn't propose them. I didn't say, I'm going to give you some arguments. And you said, okay, what are they? And then I delivered them. I just kind of delivered them. So my apologies for being so bold. Anyway, because this would be interesting, because no one really talks about reparation economics. It's not really a studied field. And I'd just be kind of curious to see if counter arguments. But here's the thing. You need to be intellectually honest. Oh, you're still disagree. I don't want to hear whining. How's that? I don't want to hear whining-based arguments. I want to hear logical, intelligent, geometric logic, intellectually honest argument. That'd be great. But that's as far as my thinking takes me. So if you have different thinking, which is good, don't give me... if you say white privilege, just grab a baseball bat and fuck yourself up the ass and then fuck yourself up both nostrils. Just shove it up your ass and your nostril sex. Sodomy by nostril. Don't care. Don't want to hear you. For those of you that, jive with, you like economics, you got a good point. Yeah, send it my way. So, that's it. Hopefully you had a great conversation about reparations. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just tired. So, but that's all we got. Should I do a plug? The book is right here. Should I do a plug? No, I'm not. We're not going to do a plug. You guys all know the books I got. So, we'll see you later. Toodles.